Welcome to another edition of Jules Voto's Photo Focus. In this video, I will be reviewing the Pentax Super-Takumar 55mm 2.0 normal lens. And this was the first 35mm camera lens I ever bought. It came with my Pentax H1A, which was my first 35mm camera, and that was in 1971. And I got rid of the lens a couple years later when I went to Nikon, so I bought it back a few years ago. So first, let's go over the specs of this lens. It has 6 elements in 5 groups. It has half click stops from 2 to f16. It takes 49mm filters like a lot of the Pentax Takumar lenses do. It has a 6-blade aperture, and it's the M42 screw lens mount, which fits Pentax, Yashica, Zenit, and a bunch of other cameras. It weighs 7.6 ounces, or 215 grams, and it has a minimum focus of 1.5 feet, or 0.45 meters. Now, these screw thread lenses are very simple design. You could see here a pin on the back of the lens. That's the only thing that protrudes from the back of the lens, and that stops the lens down at the moment of exposure. There's a lever in the camera that depresses that once you press the shutter release. There's also a switch on the front towards the back of the lens mount, and you see it here set for auto. That keeps the diaphragm open at full aperture until the moment of exposure when that pin is pressed. And there is also a manual setting for that switch that will keep the lens stopped down. And when using the lens with an adapter on a mirrorless camera, as I did here, I used this lens on my Nikon Z8, the adapter keeps that pin depressed so the lens remains at the aperture you set. And here you can see it on the Photasi M42 to NZ adapter. Now, these adapters are very inexpensive. I think I paid $15 for this one. And you can see here a comparison of the size. That's, one disadvantage is when using these lenses on a mirrorless camera, the adapter almost doubles the size of the lens. But they work really well. So we're going to be looking at some pictures here. There was a 5K run in Merchantville, New Jersey. So I went out there with my Z8 set for aperture priority. These pictures of the runners were at f11 with this 55 f2 lens, and shot a bunch of pictures. These were when they were returning from the race. I also shot with my Nikon D810 and 35 to 70 2.8 zoom, and we'll be talking about that combination in my next video. But this worked out really well. And the nice thing with the Z8, on some of these images, I actually set the camera down on the ground and used the rear screen tilted up. So that worked out really nice. Good sharpness with this lens. Decent contrast, as you could see here. It wasn't the best light conditions. It was very sunny and the sun was kind of behind me to my left, so it threw a lot of shadows. But I think it worked out really well. And this tree here, I noticed, after the race, I kind of walked around Merchantville. And this was at 5.6. I think it's really sharp. I focused on the green leaves. Same thing here with these statues. This was at 5.6. I focused right on the face up here and thought it worked out really good. Now, Merchantville is a great place to visit near Halloween. People really go all out with decorating. And this was alongside one of the houses. This was shot at 5.6, and just down the street from where that witch was this bartender all set up, and this was shot at 5.6. Now I went to 2.8, focusing again on the face, and here we see a tight shot, and it's decently sharp, throws the background out really nice. I think the bokeh on this lens is decent. And here I went to f4, and the face did sharpen up a little bit more, as you can see here. So then I walked a little further. I knew there was a house that had a ton of Halloween decorations. And I photographed this devil at 2.0. And here we're zoomed in, and the background looks great, I think, nice and out of focus. And the face is decently sharp. So I just walked around this property taking a bunch of pictures. There's so much to photograph here. It really is an amazing site. This one was at 5.6. And here's another at 5.6. And you could see just how much they have on their lawn. They must take them forever to do this. Now I went to 2.8 on this one, and it throws the background out a little more. And it's, really nicely sharp. And when you consider that this lens originally was introduced in 1962, there were slight variations along the way. This particular version came out in between 67 and 71. The one I have was built between 67 and 71. And here this skull on the tree is at 2.0 again. And it's sharp. It's not as sharp as today's modern lenses, but for a lens that's over 50 years old, I think it's pretty darn good. So now this was a house actually across the street from that other one, and this one is at 2.0, and I focused on the face of the waiter. It looks like a waiter, and it's decently sharp. And then I went to 2.8, and it is a little sharper, as we'll see in a second here as we zoom in. And this one again is at 2.8. And then I said, well, let me try one at 5.6. And that's this one here. And this house, they don't do as much as the one across the street, but it's still really nice. And here we are zoomed in at 5.6, and there's more contrast and more sharpness. Now, this one of the skeletal dog here was at 5.6, and I focused right on his face. And here we go to f8, and we get a little more depth of field, so the creature on the rocking chair is a little bit sharper. So I was really pleased. I mean, look at the contrast here. Now, of course, the lighting was contrasty, and I used the standard picture control on the Z8. Now, this is from across the street at f8. And I just wanted to see how good it was at distance. Sometimes a lens is good close, but when you get at or near infinity, it's not as sharp. But this is really good. Even out to the edges, it's decently sharp. Of course, I was at f8. And here's another at f8 of these flowers. And I think the color looks really good. And this is not a multi-coated lens, but it does a really nice job. And this was in the shade, so it doesn't have as much contrast. This lens is not as contrasty as the modern lenses. One, I guess, because of the coatings. The modern lenses have much better coatings, but it's a really nice classic lens that gives you that classic look. And then I just did a few more shots. As I was walking back to my car, and these were cropped in. I just wanted to see if I could pick up any chromatic aberration. I didn't see any, but this might not have been the best conditions for that. But it's decently sharp, and these were at f8. So really an inexpensive lens. I bought this along with the H1A for $30 several years ago. And you could find these lenses, I've seen them as low as $20, $25 on eBay. So if you're looking for a classic normal lens, this is a decent choice. So if you have any questions on this video or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I always try to respond to all questions and comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And look for my next video, shooting in the same location in Merchantville, New Jersey, with the Nikon D810 and 35-70 2.8 autofocus lens. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.